everyone, it's Lorelai, and welcome to another RPG Maker with tutorial. In this video, we want to make enemies that inhabit our dungeon, the Crystal Caves. Let's go to our database, and you can see that there are quite a few enemies already in the engine. So let's take a quick look at Slime. The first page, Basic Settings, is where you can edit the enemy's name, the image that will appear in the battle screen, and then all of its parameters from max HP, MP, attack defense, magic attack, magic defense, agility, and luck. You may find yourself spending most of your time here on the parameters as you balance your enemies with your characters. Underneath basic settings, we've got rewards and drops. You can select how much XP it drops along with how much gold it drops, and then you can select up to 3 types of items. These items can be items, weapons, or armor, and then you can select the probability of dropping. 1 out of 1 would be a 100% chance of dropping, while 1 out of 2 would be a 50% chance, 1 out of 3 would be a 33% chance, and so on. Under rewards, we've got attack patterns, and this is where you can select which skills they use and when they use those skills. So here you would select the skill that you want them to use, and the rating, which is the priority of this skill. A higher rating is a higher priority. So if we had attack at 5, and then I added another skill with a rating of 6, it will choose that 6 rating more often than this 5 rating. Underneath the priority, you can select even more conditions. You can choose which turn it has to be for this ability, plus how many turns after. You could give the skill an HP condition. Maybe the skill can only be done if HP is below 50%. Same with MP, or maybe a skill is only available if the enemy has state, blind. You could also select a party level for a skill. Say they use wind attacks if the party's level is above 10. And then you can set a manual condition for the skill by using a switch. And then finally, we have traits. These traits are very similar to class traits and actor traits. In previous videos, I have already talked about a lot of these traits. I urge you to look through and see all that you can do here. I like to think the most important part for enemies here is under rates, where you can select their element rate, and this determines how much damage they take from any one of these elements. If you set it higher to 100%, then they will take more damage from that element, and if you set it less than 100%, they will take less damage from that element. That's also relevant for state rates. Maybe you have a boss that can resist poison, for example. You would set the percentage to much lower versus much higher would be they're more likely to get that state. Or you could have them resist that state altogether through here. So now that we've taken a quick look at how enemies are set up, let's go ahead and make our own enemies for our game. I'm going to set the maximum to, let's go with 30 for now, and press OK. And then I'll go ahead and start at number 27. The first thing we need to do is figure out what we want our enemy to be. I know that our enemy is going to be in the Crystal Caves, so I would like some sort of monster that would normally live in a cave. And so under images, what I'm free to do is go through and see what is available to use. They're organized by size, with XL size being some final bosses, and small size being your small fry enemies. For this game, I'm thinking we should have a bat creature because we are in caves. And I also want to have this jewel ghost because they are the Crystal Caves, and I think that fits. After we've figured out what enemies we want to use, we got to think about what they're going to do. And there are so many ways of designing enemies. There's fighters, there's mages, healers, buffers, debuffers, guards, glass cannons, crowd controllers, and of course the further you go into a game, the more different types of enemies you'll encounter. For this game, it's the first dungeon. We're gonna go simple, so let's first make our bat, and then I'm going to call this bat Cave Bat, just to distinguish it from the bat that's already here. I'm going to set the max HP to 200. I'm going to keep max MP to 0 because it's not going to use any skills that require mana. It's going to be a fighting type enemy, so its attack is going to be a little high. Let's make it 25. And its defense is going to be, let's say, 15. Its magic attack I'll leave at 10. It's not going to use any magical abilities. And I'm going to set its magic defense to 15, similar to its defense. I'm going to set its agility to pretty high. Let's set it to 25. And I'm also going to make its luck a little high too. Luck is going to affect its state rate, and it's going to be applying poison to us. So I think its luck should be relatively decent. Okay, under rewards, we're going to have to figure out how much XP it's going to give us and how much gold it's going to give us. And to do that, we really need to analyze our game and figure out how many bats it's going to take to level up from 1 to 2, or how many bats it's going to take to buy a sword, for example. So while you're playtesting, you may find yourself adjusting these values. To get a good rough estimate right at the beginning, though, I do recommend simply looking at the existing enemies here. So you can see that slime gives 11 experience and 6 gold. And this number has been balanced more or less already based off of the XP curve that we selected for our classes. So when we made Sword Fighter and Crystal Healer, I kept the XP curve default because I just did not want to mess with it. We also kept the gold cost of our weapons and armor to basically what the built-in value was anyway. So for our enemies, I'm going to base it off of this current bat and say 11 XP and 6 gold. But again, I urge you to figure out what works for your game. Now let's say the cave bat drops potions 1/5 of the time, and magic water another 1/5 of the time. Next, we'll go to action patterns, and attack is already set up. I'm actually going to make a custom skill for our cave bat. So I'm gonna go to skills, go to the bottom, and we have quite a few empty spots here from when I made the skills for our classes. So I'm gonna go to 250, and I'm gonna call this skill Poison Bite. I'm actually not even gonna bother with the description, but I will make it a special ability that costs 5 TP. The range will be 1 enemy, and occasion, like the description, doesn't really matter because this is only going to be on an enemy, and we'll never encounter this in the menu or on the map otherwise. We'll make sure that the hit type is physical attack, and I'll set the animation to Dark 1. We'll say the bat uses Poison Bite, and its damage is going to be the basic attack enemy, with critical hit being on. And the effect is going to add a state poison, let's say at 50%. So this ability functions basically exactly the same as regular attack, only this one has a chance to poison. So let's go back to our enemy, to our cave bat, and add the skill Poison Bite. I'm going to set it at the same rating as its current ability, attack, so it's going to end up being attack 50% of the time and Poison Bite 50% of the time because they have the same rating. And then under traits, I'm actually going to make this bat weak to light attacks. So Lyra is going to have an advantage in this dungeon. We'll say 150% rate from light element. And that is our first enemy. I have one more enemy planned that is not the final boss, and this one is using the Jewel Ghost image, and I'm going to name it Crystal Fairy. While the cave bat was a fighter type enemy, I'm thinking the Crystal Fairy is going to be more of a tanky magical enemy. So I'm going to set its HP to 300. This time they will have MP. I'm going to give it 200. Its attack can be pretty okay, let's say 15. And I want its defense to be pretty high. Let's go with 30. Its magic attack, I'll also set up to 15. It's more tanky than it is attacky. And I will set its magic defense up to, let's say 20. Its agility is going to be pretty slow. I'm going to keep it at 10. And I'll also keep the luck at 10. Because it's a little bit more challenging than the bat, let's say its XP gain is 15 and gold is 10. And it can drop potion and magic water for now. I'll keep attack for the Crystal Fairy, but I'm thinking this enemy is going to be a very support-heavy enemy. So let's go to skills and give it a healing ability called Fairy Light. For the MP cost, you're going to want to ask yourself how many times this enemy can cast Fairy Light during a battle. If we look at our Crystal Fairy, it has 200 max MP. So if we set our heal to cost 100 MP, then that fairy can cast Fairy Light twice per battle. If you don't want it to matter, then you can keep the MP cost low, or even keep it at 0, in which case their max MP doesn't really matter at all. For this game, I'm going to set the MP cost to 20. The range is going to be a single ally. Hit type will stay certain hit, and the animation will be heal 1. We'll say casts Fairy Light, and the damage will be HP recover. And for the formula, again, you're gonna wanna look at your enemies and see their max HP to determine how much it's going to heal for. So we've got 300 max HP and 200 max HP. So how much do we want the Crystal Fairy to heal for? We don't want it too high, so I'm thinking perhaps a static number, just 50. And we'll say that it can critically hit. So let's go back to the attack patterns here and add our Fairy Light. But I'm going to set the rating to, let's say, 3. So it will choose to attack more often than choosing to heal. I'm going to leave traits as they are. I was thinking of having the Crystal Fairy resist light damage, but instead I'm just going to keep them regular, bulky, just through parameters instead of element rates. And that's really all there is to it. We have made our 2 enemies that will inhabit the Crystal Caves. In the next episode, we will set up these enemies as encounters in the cave. I will see you in the next video. Bye!